Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's session. We are here today to announce our latest web parts for the modern SharePoint. We will be showing calendar, documents, and maps, and we will tell you more about the upcoming releases that we will do for the new SharePoint platform. As today's agenda, we have a quick introduction to BindTuning for those of you that don't know what BindTuning does. Then we will talk a little bit about calendar, documents, and maps, and what the web parts provide in terms of functionality. I will show you both versions of the web parts, and I will end the session with the upcoming releases and the Q&A, and I will answer all the questions that you may have in the end of this session. So BindTuning is the leading platform for building connected and engaging workplaces for Office 365 and SharePoint. And we provide extensions to SharePoint to transform the way SharePoint looks like and to transform how people works with SharePoint. And to explain better what we do and how we do it, we have this slide where we have the 3 layers of our products exemplified by this image. So we have themes that basically change the way SharePoint looks like by applying custom designs that will change the fonts, colors, and background images of your theme. It will also introduce new types of navigation like mega menus. Then we have the web parts that will bring more functionality to your SharePoint, that will bring modern looks to the old SharePoint layouts. And we also have tools like this collapsible ribbon that will help you to hide certain features of SharePoint that you don't want to have visible for all your users. All of these products are fully responsive and were built and designed with not just mobile, not just desktop in mind, but also mobile, which means that everything is fully responsive and will adjust and adapt to the size of the screen where you open the SharePoint site. So the first web part that I will talk about today is the calendar web part. This is a web part that we released for SharePoint 2013 and 2016 on-prem. We also have it for SharePoint Online, and now we are releasing it for the modern version of SharePoint. And we basically did all the same functionalities that we have in the classic. We moved those functionalities to the modern SharePoint, to the modern layout. With this web part, you can easily connect multiple calendars to the same space with this condensed view that will not use a lot of space in your page to show you the events. And you will be able to not just combine multiple calendars, but you will be able also to select the overlays from the calendars and combine calendars even from multiple site collections. It works with SharePoint calendars and also with SharePoint search, which means that you can add one of these web parts to the home page of your intranet and set up the web parts to work with search and easily get a global overview of all the events from all the calendars of your subsites inside of your SharePoint. The second web part is the Maps web part, and Maps was also released first for SharePoint on-prem, and then it was released for SharePoint Online, and now it reaches the modern version of SharePoint. This specific web part works with a list that we provide with the web part, and basically it is used to display locations on a map. It works with Google Maps and with Openstreetmaps, and it allows you to easily add markers with custom information to a map to display inside of your intranet portal. The documents web part is the third web part that I will show you today, and this, like the calendar, also works with search. So basically, it connects to SharePoint document libraries and also SharePoint search. With this release for the modern framework, we added new options to the search, and now you are able to get the latest modified or the most viewed documents from a site or a site collection, and this way you can get an overview directly from a central point inside of your intranet by using SharePoint search with the web part. If you want to display documents from a specific document library or from a classic site collection, you will be also able to do it and to connect that classic site to the modern SharePoint through the use of this web part. Without further ado, let's jump into the demo, and I will show you the site that I have configured with all the three web parts in the same website. Just to show you the responsiveness of all the web parts, let me scroll down here a little bit. This is default modern site with the three web parts on it. By default, the modern sites are responsive, so our web parts don't have any issue to adapt to the size of the screen. So let me show you how they behave when I resize the screen. As you can see, the content easily resize and readjust to the size of the screen, and still you can interact with the web parts and with all the functionalities provided by the web parts. So let's start with the calendar. And to talk a little bit more about the calendar and to explain how this works, I will have to edit this page. For those of you that were familiar with the edit mode of BindTuning web parts, we kind of have the same functionality with this web parts. The only thing that changes is the main settings of the web part that now use the SPFx settings. We used this property pane instead of the custom one that we have built for the classic environment because by using this, we can easily preview how the web part will look like when we are changing the settings of the web part directly in the page. So the first thing that you need to do when you connect you want to connect a calendar to one of these web parts is manage the calendars, and you can do that by expanding the event source. And inside of it, you will find the Manage Calendars button. This will bring up the pop-up that you probably are familiar with if you use this in the past with the classic version, where you can easily add new calendars or edit or select overlays if the calendar has overlays. In the other tab, we have the search refiner, and here you can select if you want to get an overview of all the events in your SharePoint or an overview of all the events in the site collection where the web part is. This is how you connect this specific web part to a list in the modern layout. Then we have the layouts and the filters that you can apply to your calendars. Just to show you how the web part reacts when a property is changed, I will modify the layout from 2 to layout number 1. And as you can see, it immediately reacts to the change of the property, and you can easily see how this will end up on your page. Then we have all the options that we have in the classic version, like the filtering by category. You can filter by the default categories of SharePoint, of the SharePoint calendar, or by your own categories, or by the locations of your events. And then all the other options that we have in the classic are inside of the other groups, like the time period, time range, the maximum number of events that will be displayed in the calendar, and hiding recurrent or all the events. All of that can be controlled directly from here, and even these options are applied immediately to the calendar as you change it in the property pane. You can set up the categories with colors and icons. By default, we have icons and colors applied to the default calendar categories, but you can override them by typing the category and the icon. We use Phantasm. The only thing that you have to do here is to type the name of the icon with the name of the category using this format that it's described here in this example. And this will either format the category of your calendar or override the default customization. On the advanced options, we have an option to format and add the link to the title. And this is something that will be introduced in today's release. We added the Chrome functionality back to the modern SharePoint Webparts. This is something that exists by default on SharePoint Webparts in the classic environment, but on the modern, it was not available by default. So now you can easily provide a title for your web part if you want to, and if needed, you can also define in the settings a link to the title of the web part, exactly like it worked in the classic environment. And then we have the right to left for Arabic languages that will flip completely the web part. And then we have the message part of the session, the settings that will show the errors just in edit mode by default, but you can configure this to display the message always or never. This is basically a global overview of the calendar. This is a great web part to bring up all the old calendars that you already have inside of your intranet to the new SharePoint without the need to convert or migrate the calendars to new site collections or to new groups. So with this, you can easily create a new group, get the link for an old calendar, and easily display it inside of a modern page with this web part. Next to the calendar, I have the documents, and the documents like the calendar works with a default list from SharePoint and also has support for the search functionality. And the setup of the web part, it's pretty similar to the calendar. We have the same property pane built over across all the web parts. So if you learn how to work with one of our web parts, you will have no problem to work with all the other ones, because we try to keep consistency between the settings and how things are implemented. So from here, you can easily connect this to one document library or to search, and you can also sort the options, the results from search or the results from the library. So this one, it's not sorted. I will sort this by title, and my documents over here, instead of being sorted by the created date, they will be now sorted by the title. And the web part, when I save this, the web part then will apply the changes in the next refresh. Then we have the global settings like the filters. This web part provides filtering according to the extra columns or metadata that it's added to the document libraries, that basically allows you to filter the information that it's displayed with these drop downs. And you can set up that in this option over here. This web part, like the calendar, also is provided with multiple layouts. We have a tile view layout that displays the documents like this. And then we have two list views, one with the modified date and another one with without the modified date. You can set up the number of columns that you want to see with your documents, but this will this might not always display the number of columns that you select over here. If the web part detects that there's not enough space to display the documents properly, it will reduce the number of columns and it will present you a message saying that the selected number of columns does not fit in the screen. And for smaller screens, it will adjust and it will resize or reduce the number of columns automatically. Then if you want to set up this web part further, you can apply your own source query to the web part by using camel query. This was something that was already available also with the classic version. And this also provides the right to left option over there to set up the web part. And we have the same errors available on top. The last web part that I have to show you today is the maps. And maps in terms of configuration, it's a little bit different because this is connected to a list. And if you worked with the BindTuning web parts that are provided with custom lists in the past on the classic SharePoint environment, you know that the web part is provided with a list template, and that list template allows you to create new instances of the list. List templates are not supported yet on modern group sites, so the way we use now to create lists on the modern interface, it's a little bit different, and you can still connect this web part to an existing list that you already had on the classic version of SharePoint. But if you need to create a new list to store all your markers, then you can create it directly from here. The only thing that you have to do is provide a name to the list and hit the create list button, and it will automatically create the list and create all the connections between the web part and the list, and you can start adding new elements to your web part. For this web part specifically, we have two different providers. We have the Google Maps. This one is free for public sites. It might not apply to the modern SharePoint environment since this is only available for Office 365. This one will require an API key from Google. But for each paid feature that we include with our web parts, we also provide a free version of the same feature, and we have Openstreetmaps also available for this web part. And as you can see, it still displays the markers and it still displays the information inside of the markers, but instead of having color in the map, it's a black and white map. So I'll switch this to Google Maps again. And as you can see, this web part works like the other two and reacts immediately to the changes that I do into the property pane. Then we have the marker options, and this is where you basically connect the web part to the list. And we have all the other options like the zoom, the initial position, and all of that also available in the Map Center options. In terms of functionalities, this works exactly like the classic version, but with the modern layout and with the responsiveness of the property pane when you change something in the web parts. All the other options are exactly the same, like the title to the, let's call it, from of the web parts, and the option it's available in the advanced options, and like the message that are common across all the web parts. These are the three web parts that we have to present you today. Maps and calendar are already available. If you have a BindTuning Webparts subscription, you already have them on your account, ready to be updated to the latest version. Documents will be released today, and you will start receiving the update on your account today. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. Currently, we have 7 SPFx web parts available. We have calendar, we have maps, documents, quick links, weather, responsive video, and alerts. At the moment, we are working on news and filters that should be released very soon. And with this set of web parts, now you are able to bring back the functionality that you are used from the classic version of SharePoint to the modern SharePoint, and you can start building um, building modern sites with the use of the web parts that you are used to use on the classic version of SharePoint. Coming soon are the themes for the modern SharePoint. We will have more information about it soon. We will have people, news, filters, slider, and tiles also migrated, and we will have a couple of new web parts for both classic and modern SharePoint this year as well. So stay tuned, and soon you will receive more information about new web parts that will be released. So before ending the session, please, I would like to invite you to use the chat window to ask any question that you might have, and I will read all the questions and I will reply to all of them. So the first question from Michelle is, will you have an org chart with the people part, the ability to search for a person? That it's not part of the people web part, but we have seen requests for this. I would like to invite you to use the user voice to suggest this feature. We are deciding new features on the web parts based on the feedback that we get. So if you suggest this on the web part, there's a chance that we can implement it in the upcoming versions. Claudia can provide you the link to the user voice in the chat window. So another question from Ted. Is there a limit to how many calendars are added to the calendar web part? So Ted, there's not a limit in the number of calendars, but the more calendars you add to the web part, the slower the web part will render and will load, because the information that the web part needs to retrieve will be more. So I would say that the reasonable amount of calendars would be between 6 to 10, and more than that, you will notice a huge impact in the performance of the web part. To get information from multiple calendars, Ted, I would suggest you to use search instead, either connected globally to the site collection or to the site specifically. Another question from Jesse. Will Bing Maps be supported in future updates? We have Bing on our backlog of features, so you might see them being available as a provider in the upcoming versions of the web part. Another question from Michelle. Do you have a webinar on how to get web parts into the modern sites? Currently, we don't have it, but we will introduce this in the training sessions that we do. Again, I will ask Claudia to send more information about it. Michelle, please send an email to claudia@bindtuning.com, and we will get back to you with more information about the training sessions. Any other question before we end the session? All right, everyone. If there are no other questions, I would like to thank you for your time, for being here today, and I would like to invite you in advance to the upcoming sessions that we will do about the upcoming releases for the modern SharePoint. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.